Today on Pro Church Daily, we're talking about how a millennial pastor uses vlogging to grow his church.
Well, hey there, and welcome to Pro Church Daily, the show where in 10 minutes or less you'll get your daily dose of tips and tactics to help your church share the message of Jesus while we navigate the biggest communication shift that we've seen in the last 500 years. I'm your host, Alex Mills. I'm joined as always by the boss man, it's Brady Shearer, and today we're talking about how a millennial pastor uses vlogging to grow his church.
I think it's fascinating looking at pastors who are 30 or under and seeing how they are using the mediums available to them to grow their church. Mm-hmm. And when I say grow your church, I mean in two ways. Yes, I mean grow by numbers, by reaching outward, but I also mean growing the people within your church.
Of course.
We talk about the idea of sanctification, always becoming more like Jesus. You don't always have to just grow your numbers.
Yeah.
You can grow each person within your church, help them become more like Jesus. That is church growth.
I think that's a very important distinction to make. And for churches, especially smaller churches who are wanting to grow in numbers, this is something that you have to focus on. That when you focus your attention on growing the people that already attend your church and growing them as disciples, as followers of Jesus, it's very this faith walk that we have is very cyclical in nature. They will, as they grow, they will in turn, that will spill over into their personal life, and they will start creating more disciples. Their friends are going to start checking out your church, and your church will in turn start to grow in numbers. But it starts with growing the people that already attend your church.
Yeah, they both feed into one another. You can do things to grow in numbers for like a single Sunday. Like you can host an event where, give away free tickets to like the minor league baseball team or something. And that would bring in a bunch of people. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Do it. But it's important to focus on both areas of growth so that you can have a holistic approach to it. And I think that this vlogging strategy that this millennial pastor is using really feeds into that. And so we wanted to highlight him because a couple of years ago, I stumbled across this channel. The name of the vlogger is Trey Van Camp. Van Camp is two different words, like Van Halen. Is Van Halen two different words?
I don't know.
I'm 26, 27. Trey Van Camp. So his YouTube channel is, you can just search that name, Trey Van Camp, and find it. His church is called Passion Creek Church. Mm-hmm. Online, you can find their website, passioncreek.church. And this church is from Queen Creek, Arizona. And as of our time recording this, Trey is 26 years old. So he's a year younger than me. When he started this journey and planted his church, he was 24 years old. And he has been vlogging the journey of planting his church from day one.
Awesome.
What's amazing is he's at like episode number 200 or something now. And so I discovered him a couple of years ago and I thought, man, this is so cool. Someone vlogging their journey of starting a church from scratch. Yeah. And then I noticed him commenting on some of our stuff recently and I put one and one together. I reached out to him and I said, Trey, I want to highlight you on an episode of Pro Church Daily because what you're doing is the perfect example of Seize the 167. This is innovation. Can you tell me how it's been going? Like, is it working? Is it not working? And so we wanted to share a couple of things that Trey shared with us just to show how we can seize the 167. We always talk about if you want to get somewhere your church has never been, you got to be willing to do stuff that you've never done. Yeah. And we're living through the biggest communication shift in 500 years, and this is the perfect example of things that we can do that don't really make as much sense when we think about church just 10 years ago. Right. Daily or vlogging on YouTube to share your journey. What's a
vlog?
10th thing. Okay, that was more like 25 years ago. I'm all over the board today. Here are some interesting statistics about YouTube. 95% of Gen Z says that they are active users, and 50% say that they would die without it.
It's over.
So YouTube is the most popular social media platform in the world. It's more popular than Facebook.
Yeah.
And it is a social media platform because it's used for vlogging. It's the second most popular website in the world, only behind Google, because it's also a major search engine.
Of course.
So we reached out to Trey. We asked him, why'd you start this YouTube channel? Trey told us that he originally started the channel to establish trust with the community and inspire people along the way. Trey planted a church at 24, and I imagine that there were some stigmas attached with that. You're a 24-year-old kid, and you're planting a church, and he's like, I'm just going to share my journey because I want to create empathy in people. I want them to see how I'm doing this because there are going to be objections. You're too young, you can't do this. And maybe some of those are partially true. I don't have it all figured out, but I'm going to share everything with you to establish that trust and create empathy. So we reached out to Trey and I asked him to tell me a story like, okay, tell me a story about how this has affected your local congregation, and also tell me a story about how you're reaching people, not locally, because YouTube is an international platform. So the first story to share with me was that hey, like a lot of people, Trey's a big fan of Casey Neistat.
Yeah.
And so Casey was doing this giveaway of these auto lacing shoes, and he wanted to give them away to someone who would greatly benefit from them. So he ended up giving them, the winner of this giveaway was a guy named Dustin, who was a quadriplegic, and auto lacing shoes were obviously going to be super helpful for him. So Trey, our pastor vlogger, is watching along with this giveaway, and he sees that Dustin is the winner, finds out, hey, Dustin's actually a Christian. So Trey reaches out to Dustin with a DM and just, congratulates him. And over time, they develop a bit of a relationship, and eventually they do a YouTube collaboration together, which is the thing YouTubers do to, boost the visibility of each other's channels. Yeah. And what came from this collaboration was a subscriber to Dustin, the quadriplegic who won the shoes from Casey Neistat. One of his subscribers was this atheist from Australia who loved the collaboration and started subscribing and following the work of Trey, our pastor vlogger. And that individual, despite being an atheist and saying to Trey, I don't agree with everything you're doing, has become one of Trey's biggest supporters, watches every single video, so much so that when Trey launched his Patreon, which is a way for independent artists to be supported financially. Yeah. So if you love a vlogger, you can pay them $5 a month to this platform. This atheist from Australia was the very first person to sign up for the Patreon and financially support Trey, a pastor who the atheist disagreed with.
So cool.
Every single week he's hearing the message of Jesus and the gospel because of this YouTube channel. Another example that we wanted to talk about, another international example that kind of follows along that first. So Casey Neistat decides to host this big event for creators in NYC. It was sponsored by Samsung. And Dustin, the one that won the shoes, was invited to this event. Dustin was also given a +1.
I'll bring my wife? Maybe. I'll bring Trey instead.
I'll bring Trey. So Trey goes along with Dustin to meet Casey Neistat and all of his favorite vloggers. And what Trey told me was, I was a little worried, you're going to meet all these big vloggers. But Trey, and these are my words now, is such a good vlogger. Yeah. He's a very good editor, a very good filmmaker and videographer, is that he won all the respect of these vloggers. They saw his work and were like, yeah, man, you're legit. And he still has relationships with these people to this point. These are these huge influential YouTubers that Trey has been able to connect with on YouTube because of his investment on YouTube and their shared common interest there.
Wow.
That's a couple of stories when it comes to the international outreach. Let's talk about how this has affected Trey's local congregation. So the biggest one that Trey told me is I have so many. I'll share with you a really recent one. So this one came from Easter of this year. Okay. There's been this couple that Trey knows from in the community. He's like a friend of a sort of thing like that. And they've been watching the vlog journey from day one. So it's been 2 years now. They're watching every single video, following the journey. They're not churchgoers. Anyway, finally, this Easter, they're like, man, we've been following Trey for so long. What he's up to is so cool. We got to attend this church. Yeah. And so for the first time ever, they decided, I'm actually going to attend this church. They show up on Easter, and things have been progressing from there.
So cool.
All because Trey's willingness to share and document his journey. If you go to his YouTube, and we'll link it in the show notes for this episode of Pro Church Daily, and you watch, Trey does an amazing job of sharing, okay, this is what it's like to be a young pastor, a young church planner who's also a husband and also a father. And this is what it's like to face the challenges. And here's what I'm going through. There are more than 200 episodes showing every part of the journey. And what Trey is doing so well is being transparent and being authentic and putting on display all the work that goes into this. Yeah. And he's building trust and he's building rapport with his community. And he's also, to his existing congregation, showing what it's like to be a pastor, not just the one that preaches on stage, but also a father and a husband, and trying to create this new nonprofit and run it from scratch. And I can't imagine how much that's actually growing his church internally, the people that already attend, and show, hey, this is what it's like. This is this real person.
Yeah, and I think it's great. It works twofold, like you said, for people who have no connection to that church, who maybe don't even live in his area but just watch him online, but also for the people who are involved in that church community. It's just such a great opportunity to pull that curtain back. And so for the people who are listening or watching today, whether it's YouTube or whether it's Instagram stories, whether it's Facebook Live, your pastor, your leaders in your church have this opportunity to kind of welcome your congregation first and foremost, and then also other people who may never even be directly associated with your church. Welcome them into your daily life, Monday through Saturday, and like we say, seize that 167, those other hours that everyone else is living daily life. So are we, and so let's all let's pull back the curtain and kind of invite people into that And just from these, these 3 brief stories that we've mentioned, you've seen the opportunities and the stories that have started to be written. I mean, who knows what opportunities will continue to present themselves? And these for sure are not all the opportunities, all the stories that can be told over these last 2 years of Trey's journey. But it's just such a great opportunity to communicate this message that we have.
What's really cool about doing this online is these are some stories that Trey shared with me. There are countless stories that he isn't even aware of.
Right.
Because online, you have the silent majority.
Right.
And we have this in Pro Church Nation. Some of our biggest fans who have probably never commented, never actually reached out, but are just there following along with you the entire time. And you don't know how your work is affecting them, but one day you will.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just the nature of sharing all of this stuff online. So make sure you go subscribe to Trey Van Camp on YouTube. We'll have it linked in the show notes. Follow along with his journey, what it's like to be a pastor, vlogging, see how he edits, see how he does it, because he's tremendously skilled there as well. That'll do it for this episode of Pro Church Daily. We'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for watching today's episode of Pro Church Daily. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel so you never miss another video, and hit that church bell so you get notifications.
And if you like this video, it really does mean the world to us if you go ahead and hit the thumbs up.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. What do I say?
Subscribe.
Ooh.
And the church bell. Hit it.
All right.